Politeness is usually just cowardice in disguise. The desperate need to constantly apologize is a biological trauma response, completely exposing a fragile ego to hungry predators. The elite 1% use a classified framework to command respect without ever asking for forgiveness, and the window to install their system is shutting immediately. Ignoring this biological reality today guarantees permanent social submission tomorrow. By the exact end of this video, the blueprint to cut these strings will be entirely exposed. Society has engineered a massive, highly profitable lie that being a people pleaser makes a person good, moral, and virtuous. This is a brilliant manipulation tactic designed to keep the masses obedient. In the brutal reality of dark psychology, being a people pleaser is not an act of kindness. It is an act of absolute, pathetic submission. When an individual constantly bends their own boundaries to accommodate the toxic behavior of others, they are not keeping the peace. They are handing over the remote control to their own nervous system. Covert manipulators do not view accommodating behavior as generous. They view it as a direct invitation to exploit. A people pleaser is mathematically constructed to be the perfect victim. They will absorb disrespect. They will take the blame for conflicts they did not start, and they will exhaust their own biological energy to ensure the predator remains comfortable. They are social puppets. Every time they force a fake smile to avoid an argument, a manipulator is pulling a string. Every time they over-explain a simple decision, a manipulator is pulling a string. The illusion of being the nice guy or the sweet girl is a heavy, suffocating mask worn to hide a terrifying lack of internal validation. The world does not respect the puppet. It only uses them until they break. What is the biological truth behind your politeness? To completely destroy this destructive habit, we must look at the primal architecture of the human brain. The extreme politeness of a people pleaser is not a personality trait. It is a clinical trauma response known in evolutionary biology as fawning. When the limbic system detects a social threat, like the anger, disapproval, or disappointment of a toxic person, the brain goes into immediate survival mode. Some people fight, some people flee, but the people pleaser instantly submits. Their autonomic nervous system calculates that the only way to survive the perceived threat is to immediately appease the aggressor. They become hypervigilant, constantly scanning the room, trying to anticipate the predator's emotional needs before they even ask. This is the biological truth behind the mask of politeness. The behavior is not driven by love. It is driven by deep, primal fear. The brain is terrified of the discomfort of social friction. It is absolutely terrified of being perceived as the villain. When an apology is offered for something that was not a mistake, it is a biological plea for re-entry into the tribe. It is the act of starving for external permission to exist. This fragile ego is a massive liability in the modern world. Predators possess specialized neural radars that detect this exact frequency of fear. They can smell the desperation of someone who needs to be universally liked, and they will clinically insert themselves into that person's life to harvest that energy. As long as an individual requires the approval of others to feel safe, they will always be a biological slave to their opinions. How do manipulators identify a fragile ego? Covert narcissists and dark triad personalities are elite biological hunters. They do not need to speak to a person for hours to know if they are a viable target. They can identify a fragile ego in less than 60 seconds by observing specific body language leaks. In the clinical study of manipulation techniques, predators look for the individuals who actively shrink their physical presence. The person who rounds their shoulders forward, takes up minimum physical space, and constantly touches their neck or face in a pacifying gesture is instantly marked as prey. The most dangerous biological leak is nervous laughter. When a manipulator subtly disrespects a group, they watch the reactions carefully. Strong individuals will hold cold, unbroken eye contact and let the heavy silence hang in the air. But the people pleaser will immediately offer a nervous, high-pitched laugh to cut the tension. That single laugh is the ultimate green light for a predator. It signals that the target is so terrified of an uncomfortable moment that they will actively help the manipulator get away with the disrespect. They also listen to the vocabulary of submission. The constant use of words like just, maybe, and sorry, before asking a fundamental question broadcasts a severe lack of confidence. I just wanted to ask, or sorry to bother you, but these are the verbal signatures of a social puppet. The predator realizes that if they apply even a minimum amount of emotional pressure, this person will instantly fold, surrender their boundaries, and apologize for existing. Why does over-apologizing destroy your status? An apology is not a magical eraser that fixes a conflict. In the cold mathematics of social dynamics, an apology is a massive transfer of power. Constant over-apologizing does not prove emotional maturity, it actively destroys social status. The human brain operates on a strict, subconscious hierarchy of respect. When an individual apologizes for expressing a basic need, or says sorry simply because someone else is in a bad mood, they are forcefully lowering their position in that hierarchy. They are telling the subconscious mind of the other person that their reality is fundamentally inferior. Toxic individuals weaponize this brilliantly. They will manufacture chaos, act deeply offended by a completely normal action, and wait for the people pleaser to break. And the people pleaser always breaks. The moment the apology leaves their mouth, the predator wins. Manipulator takes that apology and stores it in a psychological vault, using it as permanent proof that they are the righteous victim and the target is the chaotic problem. Over-apologizing trains the people around you to treat you like a subordinate. It proves that you have absolutely no internal boundaries and that your nervous system can be hijacked at any given moment. It is volunteering for the role of the psychological punching bag. Pause immediately. The behavioral trap I am about to expose is the exact reason you feel utterly exhausted and invisible in your own life. If you do not decode this specific psychological mechanism in the next 60 seconds, your identity will be permanently erased by the parasites around you. Pay absolute attention. What is the dark psychology of social submission? The ultimate cost of being a people pleaser is not just the loss of respect. It is the total, irreversible erosion of the human identity. When an individual spends their entire life shape-shifting to meet the expectations of others, they eventually forget who they actually are. This is the dark psychology of social submission. Every time a person agrees with an opinion they secretly hate, every time they laugh at a joke that disrespects them, and every time they swallow their anger to keep a fake peace, they are fracturing their own psychological foundation. The human brain cannot tolerate this level of cognitive dissonance indefinitely. To survive the constant suppression of true reality, the mind simply numbs itself. The individual becomes a hollow shell. They lose the ability to trust their own instincts, their own memories, and their own desires. The covert narcissist relies entirely on this exact process of identity erosion. They want their target hollow, because a hollow puppet is infinitely easier to control. They will subtly isolate the victim from their core values, punishing them with silence or passive aggression whenever they attempt to assert independence, and rewarding them with breadcrumbs of affection when they submit. The people pleaser becomes biologically addicted to those breadcrumbs. They start believing that their only value in this world is their utility to others. They become a human sacrifice on the altar of someone else's ego, burning their own potential to ashes just to keep the predator warm. This is not a life. It is biological slavery. How do the elite command respect without asking? The top 1% of individuals, those who possess genuine, untouchable social dominance, operate on a fundamentally different behavioral framework. They are the exact opposite of a people pleaser. They possess a terrifying level of internal validation. An elite operator never explains their choices to people who operate in bad faith, and they absolutely never apologize for holding a boundary. They understand that respect is not something that is begged for. It is something commanded through absolute sovereign indifference. When a toxic person attempts to project guilt onto an elite individual, the attack simply bounces off an invisible wall of stoicism. They do not rush forward to defend their character. They do not engage in frantic, emotional debates to clear their name. They recognize that the accusation is merely a dominance test, and they refuse to participate in the exam. If someone misinterprets their actions, they allow the misunderstanding to exist. Elite operators do not require the world to like them. They are completely comfortable being the villain in a manipulator's false narrative. By refusing to chase approval, they become magnetic. People are biologically drawn to individuals who do not need them. The elite command respect precisely because they are willing to walk away from any interaction, at any time, without a single moment of hesitation. Their true power lies in their absolute detachment. You are standing at the absolute edge. The psychological weapon I am about to hand you is the only thing capable of cutting the strings of your manipulation. If you close this video before mastering the void, you will wake up tomorrow as the exact same obedient puppet. Do not blink. To permanently destroy the people-pleasing reflex, one must learn to weaponize the exact thing that terrifies the fragile ego the most, the void of uncomfortable silence. Manipulators and emotional parasites thrive on kinetic energy. They need frantic apologies, nervous laughter, and desperate explanations to maintain their illusion of control. When that energy is removed, the predator suffocates. The human brain, particularly the hypervigilant brain of a covert narcissist, cannot process the absolute void. When a toxic entity launches a guilt trip, and the target responds by staring directly into their eyes, completely relaxed, without uttering a single syllable, it triggers a violent short circuit in their nervous system. The silence forces them to swallow their own toxic projection. They begin to panic. The power dynamic inverses instantly. The void communicates a level of supreme dominance that words could never achieve. It tells the predator that their emotional manipulation has absolutely zero effect on the target's biological state. Silence is the ultimate executioner of toxic dynamics. It starves the parasite. It denies them the validation they crave and proves that the individual is no longer available for consumption. The moment a person becomes comfortable holding the silence, they become completely immune to manipulation. Cutting the strings requires a brutal, clinical execution of the fragile ego. This is not a gradual process. It is a non-negotiable behavioral shift that begins this exact second. From today forward, the desperate need to be universally liked must be permanently eradicated from the mind. The over-explaining of decisions ends now. The word sorry must be deleted from the vocabulary when dealing with toxic entities. When a boundary is set, it will be stated as an absolute fact, not a negotiation. If a manipulator attempts to punish this new independence with passive aggression, they will not be chased. They will be allowed to walk away, and the door will be locked behind them. The reality must be completely accepted. Reclaiming social power will heavily polarize the people around you. Those who genuinely respect you will adapt. Those who are using you will throw violent emotional tantrums, desperately trying to force the puppet back into submission. Let them scream. Let them thrash. Your reality does not require their permission to exist. You are no longer an emotional sponge. You are a concrete wall. The hidden rules of power have been exposed, and the blueprint to invincibility is in your hands. But knowledge without immediate execution is utterly useless. If you go back to over-apologizing tomorrow, you have actively chosen to remain prey. If you are ready to cut the strings and hold the silence, subscribe and hit the bell immediately. We are arming the elite. Protect your reality. Master the void. Become completely untouchable. To discover the exact dark psychology hacks manipulators use to manufacture fake guilt,